The Dodgers didn't chase headlines this weekend. They chased insurance. Two quiet infield moves tell you exactly how this front office thinks and why depth, not drama, wins over 162.
You are Locked On Dodgers, your daily Los Angeles Dodgers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everybody? I'm Harry Ruiz. That's Travis Rodgers, and it's time for Locked On Dodgers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. On today's show, MLB is once again flirting with the idea of an in-season tournament. Freddie Freeman is stepping away from the 2025 World Baseball Classic, but first, two quiet roster moves, Travis, that tell you exactly how the Dodgers are building depth.
The quiet ones are sometimes the ones that make the biggest difference, right? I can't wait to talk about it on today's episode of Locked On Dodgers, which is brought to you by FanDuel. The wild card round is in the rearview mirror. We're on to the division round, and FanDuel is officially in playoff mode. So visit FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL, and grab your profit boost pack every NFL game day.
You can catch Travis every weekday from 3 to 6 in the afternoon on the Travis and DeMarco Show on 710 ESPN LA. And if you're not in Southern California or can't get to a radio, the ESPN LA app makes it easy to listen. As for me, when I'm not on the mic calling USC football or Raiders games in Espanol, this is my home base, breaking down Dodgers baseball with you day in and day out. If this is your first time tuning in, welcome. You picked the right place. And if you're an everydayer, you already know the deal. This show doesn't move without you. If you're watching on YouTube, please hit that like button, jump into the comments, and make sure you're subscribed. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts, a quick 5-star rating really helps more Dodgers fans discover the show. Also, one last thing. Remember, you can always be a part of the conversation on the Locked On Dodgers listener line, 279-3-LOCKED or 279-356-2533. All right, boring or brilliant? Dodgers bet on depth. The Dodgers made two moves this weekend that probably didn't move the needle nationally, but absolutely fit the way that this front office operates. First, Travis, they claimed Ryan Fitzgerald off waivers from the Twins. Then they signed Andy Ibanez to a one-year big league deal. No fireworks, no press conference, just a deeper team. And that's the point when it comes to a Dodger squad that doesn't just focus early in the season, middle of the season, end of the season. They want a full team throughout the year because they know that eventually somebody's going to go down.
Well, yeah, so somebody is always going to go down. You're absolutely right about that. And I think that for the Dodgers in particular, having that depth of roster is important for another reason, which is, and look, they will never, ever say it like this, but this is what it is in the most basic terms. They're not going to floor the gas pedal during the regular season. They are going to kind of make sure that guys get as much rest as they need, that guys get as much time off as they need, that guys are as healthy as possible. So when they do start to hit that accelerator, when you get into, depending on what the race looks like, which I think we probably have a pretty good idea of what that is, end of August, early September, maybe even mid-September, then they can have their best players at their most healthy at the most important time. The players that you talked about, Harry, are the guys that will get them from opening day until that point, right? Yes, Freddie's going to play a lot. Will Smith's going to play a lot. Max Muncy's going to play a lot. But they have lots of other guys that you can shuffle in and out of the lineup. All of these different pitchers, you have your 10, 12, 11 guys, whatever it is in the bullpen. But it's not just those guys. It's the additional 4 or 5 guys that shuttle back and forth between Oklahoma City and Los Angeles. It is the full team that you use to get to the playoffs. And then when you get to the playoffs, you literally do use every single guy on your team. We saw it in that crazy 18-inning game where they were just about out of guys. So these moves may not be the ones that make you go, oh my gosh, we got Edwin Diaz, or, a year ago where you pick up Blake Snell, where it's incredibly exciting and a big name. But these are the guys that get you in a position to use those guys to win the most important games. These are really important, not sexy like you said, but they're important because it just allows you to manipulate your roster in a certain way. And the Dodgers are one of the few teams that have the luxury to do that. They're thinking about the end of the season at the beginning of the season.
Where do Fitzgerald and Ibanez potentially fit in this squad? You got to look at Tommy Edman, who underwent surgery. You got to look at Kiké Hernandez, who underwent surgery, who are part of the potential answer to the question of who's going to be covering up for guys in the infield in case one of them goes down. In the case of Edman, who is down, well, you can look at these two guys and be like, hey, they are part of that equation where you include a Miguel Rojas, who is also in your bench but isn't going to be out there every single day. Let's head and look into these two guys. First, Fitzgerald. He's 31. He's bounced around and he's not here to be a star. But what he is flexible. Shortstop, second base, third base. Does that sound familiar? That's kind of like the player that the Dodgers absolutely fall in love with. Someone who can survive at multiple spots without hurting you defensively. And that right there is something that the team needs. And look, at the big league level last season, the numbers weren't pretty in limited time. But in AAA, he did hit. He got on base. He showed pop. And that matters when you're talking about potentially the 26th or 27th guy on your roster.
Yeah, look, I don't mean to be disrespectful, and I certainly don't mean to be dismissive, but his ability to hit, his ability to drive in runs, his ability to do, steal bases or whatever it may be, is down the list of things that they need him to do. At the top of the list of the things that they need him to do is be able to fill in a lot of different places. And what you just said is what he's best at. He can play basically any position in the infield, because think about this. Think about what we're talking about. Who's going to play second base for the Dodgers this year? Who knows, right? That it's going to be a big rotating door of guys. Maybe it's Tommy Edman, and that would be great. But like you mentioned, his health is in question at this point. Who's going to play shortstop? Mookie Betts. Mookie had a weird year. Mookie had a really weird year, and hopefully it was just a weird year, nothing more than that. But he's at an age where you start to say, does he need a day off? Does he need a day off once a week, twice a month, whatever it is? You need somebody that can fill in there. Max Muncy is not a young player. Max Muncy has been around a really long time. Historically, Muncy usually misses a chunk of time here and there. So you need some guys that can kind of put their finger in the dam to get you to the next guy till he comes back. And then, he plays, 2 weeks at third base, and Muncy comes back, and all of a sudden you need him to play 2 weeks at second base, and Mookie needs a day off here or there. This is what they do better, I think, than most other teams, is they find guys that can fill multiple holes. They don't care if he hits 300 or 200. They prefer 300, of course, but they need a guy that can do a lot of different things, and this is what a guy like that does.
Remember when mid-season everybody was like, oh my God, send Mookie Betts back to right field. He isn't batting because he's at second base. His defense isn't the best. And then you end the season and he's a contender. He's a finalist for the Gold Glove Award. I mean, that's the way baseball goes. It's such a long season. It's 162 games that halfway there, you're like, man, changes are needed. And then at the end of the season, it's like, hey, it's great. But then you can start next season, and if things aren't right, you have somebody to cover up for him. Or Max Muncy, when Kershaw got to 3,000 strikeouts, it's like he gets hurt. And he's out for a while. He comes back, and then he's out for a while again. You have to have those options ready. And now, one of those options is also Andy Ibanez, a 32 glove first, positionally versatile and experienced player. He has played meaningful innings in Texas and Detroit, so he doesn't need those development reps, and he understands his role because he's not blocking anyone. He's not demanding everyday at-bats. He's here to absorb chaos. That's the real theme here. The Dodgers aren't chasing upside with these moves. They're chasing stability. And I know that everybody tuning into this show wants that big, sexy move. They want to hear Bo Bichette to the Dodgers. They want to hear Kyle Tucker to the Dodgers. But these moves have to be done so that you're ready for any case possible that happens with the team.
I like how you said it, that, nobody knows what's coming next. Chaos is always right there. You just, sometimes it happens in your pitching staff. Sometimes it happens in the outfield, the infield. So, unfortunately, sometimes it happens in more place than one place at a time. And you have to fill a lot of these different holes. And the Dodgers are very fortunate that it isn't one of these, we need a guy that is going to play every day, or if we do put this guy in, or if we do lose player X, that if we put somebody in, does it torpedo our chances to win the division? The answer for that in literally every single position on the Dodgers is no, because they have so many talented players that, and I'm knocking on wood as I say this, but regardless of who you want to throw in there, if they lost player X, okay, you're still the favorite to win the division. You're probably still the favorite to win the World Series. If you lost 2 player X's, okay, you're probably still the favorite to win the division. You're probably still the favorite to win the pennant and go to the World Series. And that's what they have that just about nobody else does. And so when they can find these other guys to fill these holes and backfill, it is an advantage that they take an incredible, amount of time to make sure that they maintain. And they have. And this is what it is. And this is why they go and they find guys that can do so many. Think of Kiké Hernandez on every other team. Maybe you got one. The Dodgers have like 4 of those guys that can play all over the field, whether it was Chris Taylor, whether it's, Miguel Rojas, Kiké Hernandez. They really cover guys. Absolutely. Edman's a perfect example of that. They just have a roster full of guys. And then, like you mentioned a second ago, this is guys coming into this team. This isn't, I got to find my way in the big leagues or I'm going to be out of here and I'm going to be, coaching high school baseball somewhere. This is, I got a chance to go to the World Series. I just need to do my job and I got a chance to go pick up a ring. It's a pretty attractive offer.
No doubt about it. And look, the Dodgers, they're building a roster where if something goes wrong in April or May, it doesn't become a crisis. And here's the thing, the key thing. These moves don't matter in January, but they might matter in June or in August. And fans will be like, oh, remember when we got these 2 guys, Fitzgerald, Ibanez? It's like, hey, we needed these fellas. They matter when a starter tweaks something and you need someone who won't implode for a couple of days or a week or a couple of weeks. This right here is how championship teams think. All right, next on Locked On Dodgers, Freddie Freeman won't be wearing Team Canada's jersey in the World Baseball Classic this year. We'll talk about why this decision makes complete sense and why Dodgers fans should quietly be relieved.
The NFL division round is here and FanDuel is officially in playoff mode, right? Every game day during the NFL playoffs, and oh my gosh, have they been amazing so far. FanDuel is giving customers even more ways to get in on that action because right now, every NFL playoff game day, FanDuel users get a profit boost pack waiting for them inside the app, which means each game day, you're going to see a pack loaded with multiple profit boosts you can apply to the bets you like the most. We still got one more division or wild card game tonight, right? We got a Monday night division game. So you can open your profit boost pack first thing on game day and see what boost you want to apply. The boost lets you lean into your game day instincts, whether you're backing momentum, defense, the quarterback, the coach. The boost gives you more juice on the bets that you already like instead of forcing you into betting something new. So every play feels bigger and the boosts make your bets feel that way too. You make your picks, then apply our profit boost to go after even bigger payouts while the playoffs are rolling along. So visit FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL, and grab your profit boost pack every NFL playoff game day.
Thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen of the day, and thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. You already live your team every day. Now take it up a level and go ad-free. Join the Everydayer Club today and get Locked On Dodgers with no interruptions, members-only Discord access, and more, all for just $5 a month or $50 a year. Go to LockedOnDodgers.supercast.com or check the link in the show notes to learn more. Freddie steps back, and that's okay. Freeman will not be playing for Team Canada in the 2026 World Baseball Classic, and for Canadian baseball fans, that hurts. For Team Canada, that's a big loss. But for the Dodgers, this might be the best possible outcome because Freeman cited personal reasons, and honestly, that's where the conversation should stop, but context matters. He's 36 years old. He's coming off of back-to-back World Series runs, and the Dodgers aren't just trying to win games, they're trying to win October. Travis, we know WBC is special, it's emotional, it's intense, but it's also a massive physical toll right before a season that already demands 160 games is about to start.
Yeah, you bring up such a good point, and I think this is something that maybe we don't take into account nearly as often as we probably should, that the World Baseball Classic games are incredibly intense. they're not like spring training has a very specific vibe to it, right? Especially if you are a veteran player. And it is go out there, work on your swing, work on your mechanics, work on your pitches, get out there, get healthy, get ready for the season. But the intensity of a spring training game is virtually non-existent if you're a veteran player. Now, if you're a younger player, it's a little different. Think about what the Dodgers have done over the last several years. They've played nothing but high intensity games at the end of the season. And now all of a sudden you get a couple months off, but then you got to come back in and just floor the gas again for most of these guys. I don't know about that. And especially a player like Freddie Freeman. Look, Freddie, I'm sure, is proud to represent Canada. We've seen him do it before, but I do not hate the fact that he's not going to play in this tournament. I love the WBC. I'm looking forward to it. It's right around the corner, and seeing all of our Japanese players play for Japan against some of our players on the American, it's going to be fun to watch. But high intensity baseball in March is kind of scary, quite frankly, especially when you're on a Dodger team that played nothing but high intensity games. I'm glad he's going to take a little time off because, I don't even like saying this out loud. We're getting close to the end of the Freddie Freeman run where he's going to finish his career. He's going to go right into the Hall of Fame. He's had some of the greatest Dodger moments we've ever seen, but he's in his mid-30s. It's not like he's in his mid-20s in Atlanta and you knew you had another 10, 12 years of this. You can see the finish line from whereas I don't know if it's a year from now, 2 years from now, 3, 4, 5, but it's coming. So I don't know how many of those bullets you want to fire in a tournament like the WBC when you're Freddie Freeman.
And by the way, before we continue with more, I want to give a shout out to one of our subscribers on YouTube who called me out when I brought up the Avengers a couple of days ago in one of our shows. And I said, Freddie Freeman, Captain America. And he's like, how is he going to be Captain America if he represents Team Canada? I was like, well, technically, where was he born? In California. He's American, but obviously with his parents being from Canada and that special connection he had with his mother, it's like, hey, you understand that as well. But look, now he broke Canada's heart in the World Series, that walk-off home run
right.
in Game 4 of the World Series, and now he's breaking their heart again. But obviously, when you talk about a veteran player, somebody that is already in the tail end of his career, you feel that this rest is necessary, or maybe even not rest, but he's going to be with the Dodgers in spring training at that time. And what happens in spring training once a veteran is pulled from the game, Travis? He just grabs his bag, he walks through the field, out back to the backfields, and then he calls it a day and gets to go home if he wants to chill with his family or whatever. If you're in the World Baseball Classic and you're pulled from the game, you're still right there, and it's like, until the game is over, you ain't leaving for your squad. So I feel this is a good call from Freddie Freeman, and look, he's given Team Canada everything he could in past tournaments, and even with him, Canada hasn't made it out of the first round, so that's not an indictment, it's just reality too.
No, it is, and look, I mean, it's just one of those things that what makes the World Baseball Classic so wonderful, and they really have developed this tournament to the point where baseball fans like you and me and our everydayers are excited to see it, is that it is high intensity. It is played with a great deal of playoff sort of energy, right? It's not just it's not a friendly, to use a soccer term. It is competitive. It is a real thing. The part that's what makes it so great. It's also the part that makes it as scary as it can be for people that root for major league teams, because the very best guys play in this tournament for the most part. You're not just seeing AAA guys. You're not just seeing, the back end of the roster guys. You're seeing stars, and they are competing at the highest possible level. And we know what has sometimes, unfortunately, stuff happens. Guys get injured. Guys miss sometimes. Edwin Diaz is probably Edwin Diaz got hurt during a celebration of one of these games. And so it is scary. I get what he's doing. And like you said, baseball's weird. Anybody can win any game on any given day, but I don't think that Canada is a likely, gold medal round team. But, I'm glad Freddie's going to get ready for the Dodger season rather than the WBC tournament.
And look, Canada still has talent. Josh Naylor, Tyler O'Neill, Bo Naylor. There's a real big league presence there. But Freddie stepping away just shifts expectations for them. From the Dodgers' perspective, though, This is about preservation because he is still one of the most consistent hitters in baseball. He's still the heartbeat of this lineup, and the Dodgers don't need him grinding through high stress March games when the real goal is staying healthy into November. Because let's remember, now the World Series goes into November, and you're talking about baseball being played March through November. Let him there. And at the end of the day, also, sorry, Travis.
Yeah, no, I'm just, and you know how he's going to approach it. That's the thing. He's not just going to be there ceremonial, tip your hat, and hey, everybody, let's go get him today. He's going to grind it out. That's what makes, other than the fact that he's a Hall of Fame talent and a Hall of Fame performer, one of the calling cards of his game is he plays every day. He takes every at-bat seriously. He plays 9 innings in every game. He just does not take his foot off the gas. And if he puts on a uniform and goes out there to play, he's going to play hard. So I think the only way to avoid that is to not play.
He goes 0 for 4 one day, he doesn't care. Or he cares, but it's not like it's going to affect him the next day. He can go 4 for 4 and hit a walk-off home run to win the game. He's just a pro's pro. He's your favorite player, so let him do whatever he wants. And at the end of the day, this doesn't diminish his legacy. It doesn't change his commitment. It just reflects where he is in his career. And honestly, if you're a Dodgers fan, you can probably exhale when you hear this news and just be like, okay, he's focused on Dodger Blue for 2026 instead of thinking about Team Canada. All right, coming up on Locked On Dodgers, Major League Baseball wants to mess with the calendar again. An in-season tournament in this sport? We'll decide whether this is a future or a bridge too far. Don't forget to follow Locked On Dodgers not only on YouTube, but on X, Instagram, and TikTok as well. You can find Travis on social media at Travis Rodgers on X and Instagram. Meanwhile, I'm at Harry Ruiz on X, at Harry_Ruiz on Instagram, and at Harry Ruiz_ on TikTok. Baseball's big idea: evolution or overthinking? MLB Commissioner Rob Manfred is once again floating a familiar idea. What if baseball wasn't just baseball as we know it? Shorter season, split schedule, in-season tournament. On paper, it sounds exciting, fresh, modern. In reality, this is where baseball walks a tightrope because the 162-game season isn't just a tradition, it's infrastructure. Every stat, every contract, every record is built on that number. Change it, and you don't just tweak the game, you redefine it, because this is where it all comes out, Travis. Could baseball pull off an NBA-style in-season tournament? Maybe. Would it generate buzz? Probably. Would it complicate literally everything else? Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm not the world's biggest NBA fan, so I'll start right here. That in-season tournament that the NBA plays, I could care less as a sports fan. I don't know what they're playing for other than money, and I don't get any, so what do I care? Right? Like if they want to put in, hey, every Laker fan gets another $10, then sure, I'll lean into it. I'll be excited about it. But just having rich guys get richer doesn't really move the needle for me. So what are we playing for, I think, is the first question. And I get that you have to start somewhere and you have to build some tradition. I understand all of that. I don't like the idea of stopping down what, like you said, 162 games. I get it. That's what we've had since 1961. And I really cannot imagine a scenario where we peel some of these games back because it takes money out of the owners' pockets. We know that's not going to happen. I wouldn't mind a shorter season. I really don't care. I mean, we've changed the number of games before. We went from 154 to 162. So that's not a bridge too far. But what are we doing it for? If it's to make guys more healthy, if it's to get more players on the field more often, great. But I don't think we just do it to try to get, new stuff in there just because you need new stuff. So that's number one. Number two for me, though, I'm not really locked into tradition for tradition's sake. You do need to grow the game. You do need to bring in a young audience to the game. And if this works, I'm interested in it. I'm willing to at least, explore the possibility. I think one of the things that the NFL does better than anybody else, any other league in the world, they kind of tinker with their format every once in a while. They add playoff teams. They change the playoff structure as far as who gets a bye and who doesn't. They went from 14 to 16 to 17 games. Now they're going in the wrong direction, but that you can tweak these things and people will stick around. So all of these things are intriguing to me. I don't think you have to have them. I think that the last thing that I would think about with this, though, is can we figure out baseball beyond 2026 before we start figuring about formatic changes? Like, let's make sure we have a CBA in place that so we know there is a season, whether that includes an in-season tournament or fewer games or whatever. That's fine, but let's make sure we know we're going to play baseball beyond this year before we start doing all the rest of that stuff.
Yeah, the end of Rob Manfred's career as the commissioner is right around the corner as well, and he wants to leave a legacy where people potentially forget about him pardoning the Astros and let him free without having to do anything besides just talking and going with their hands clean out of that. The manager, the general manager, the manager, they were the ones that ended up paying for that, but at the end of the day, baseball, too, you look at things, and you were talking about the NBA Cup, Travis. I was there for the final last month out here in Las Vegas, and they did it 3 years in Vegas, and now they're going to move it to another city, I think, that doesn't have basketball or whatever the case may be. But for a team like the Knicks, it was the first time they ever hosted a trophy in over a quarter century. So for them, it's like, oh, cool, we were able to win something. I feel like for other baseball teams, it could be like, well, the Dodgers might not win this one. Let's see if we can win this one. And that way, if we don't win the World Series, at least we win something in the middle of the season and can claim a trophy that way. Because the Dodgers, you know that they're always going to be contending for the big one, which is this one right here.
Yeah, you bring up an excellent point. So a friend of mine, colleague of mine, Mike Trudell, who does sidelines for the Lakers on Spectrum Sportsnet, he is a huge soccer fan, college soccer player, and he explained the NBA in-season tournament to me in a way that made some sense because I just explained how I look at it. I think from a fan's perspective, you don't get a draft pick, you don't get a playoff position, you don't get anything other than, hey, we got this trophy. Okay, what do I care? Because we know the trophy that matters, that's at the end of the season. Trudell was telling me, and I think it makes some sense, is what you just said, which is in other sports, soccer in particular, winning these little one-off things is prestigious. It does matter. To win, this cup or this tournament or that tournament is meaningful. So if you can bring an element of that to the NBA or to Major League Baseball, that's fine. I guess I could learn to care about those things. But, and if you're the Minnesota Twins, the Kansas City Royals, the San Diego Padres, these teams that have really not been in the World Series mix in a minute or two, then maybe one of these little things would mean something to you. But as Dodger fans, we know the one that matters. Like if you had said we won the inaugural, July Cup or whatever you want to call it, okay. Where are you going to put that at the stadium? We know where we put the World Series titles. Where are you going to put the rest of them? So it takes time, and I'm open to it. I'm not. Even though I'm old, I'm really not beholden to tradition for tradition's sake. If you have a good idea, let's talk about it. And let's, I'm even willing to try it. And if it sucks, get rid of it. That's fine. But, just doing it to do it, I don't know about that.
Yeah, and for example, in soccer in the U.S., it's the oldest tournament that has been played, the U.S. Open Cup. You have teams from lower tiers playing in that tournament, and then you get USL teams, you get MLS teams in there, and it's a great opportunity for them to be in there with the big boys, even though the big boys end up playing with like their backups and the reserve players and their lower tier players. It's just being like, hey, we're playing against LAFC or the LA Galaxy. In Spain, it's the Copa del Rey. In Europe, it's in England, it's the FA Cup. And it's those little tournaments that add a little extra something in the middle of the season, but it's mostly for like the lower level teams. And then once it's the semifinals and the finals, it's mostly the same teams that always play for the big tournaments, for the big prizes. But baseball, it's not built for single game chaos like potentially the NBA Cup is, or those in-season tournaments in soccer. Baseball is built for series, for attrition, for proving who survives the marathon. And yes, the sport has evolved before pitch clocks worked, shift restrictions worked. Even the extra inning runner, while controversial, is mostly accepted now.
Great.
But this right here is different. An in-season tournament forces uncomfortable questions. Does it count toward the standings? Does it replace the All-Star break? Do players get rest or more stress? And what happens to October if the calendar keeps getting stretched. You're going to be talking about the World Series in mid-November. So I feel like it's different than basketball, different than hoops, and I feel you just keep it as it is.
Well, the weather, like you mentioned, if you're in Los Angeles, maybe it's not a big deal. But if you're in Chicago, it's a big deal, right? If you have the World Series in the middle of November, good luck with that. So there's a lot of things to consider. And like we said, that part of what makes baseball so appealing to baseball people is that it is a 6-month attrition contest to who can survive 6 months of all the crazy stuff that happens. And it's not just okay, we're going to have 2 weeks, everybody go, and we're going to see. It's not really what this is about. That's what the playoffs are about, not in the middle of the season where we're just going to say, okay, the next 2 weeks matter. Do they? Okay. I mean, it's a weird deal, but I'll keep an open mind.
I'm sure Commissioner Manfred is looking at the real motivator here, money, because it becomes another TV property, another sponsorship opportunity, another package to sell before media rights expires, but that doesn't make it evil, but it does make it risky for everybody involved. Could this work someday? Maybe. Is baseball ready for it right now? That's far less clear. All right, that'll do it for today's pod. Thank you so much for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen of the day, and thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. Tomorrow, we got way more for you here on our show, but if you never miss an episode, the Everydayer Club is built for you. Get Locked On Dodgers ad-free, plus members-only Discord access, and more. Head to LockedOnDodgers.supercast.com to join the club. For those of you on video, we send you over to the first ever 24/7 National Locked On Podcast Network YouTube channel. On audio, make sure you make your second listen Locked On MLB. Travis, is it okay if I make a little NFL Major League Baseball comparison?
Go.
So when we talk about the Rams, are we talking about like the Dodgers? But when we talk about the Chargers, we're talking about the Angels? Because, man, when was the last time they won a playoff game?
No, here's the way I liked it right up until the very end. The Chargers at least go to the playoffs. They don't win in the playoffs, but at least they go to the playoffs. And the Angels don't even go to the playoffs.
So then they're the Padres? Sorry, San Diego?
Yes, they're the Padres. The Chargers are the Padres. That's right. That's exactly right.
Sorry, San Diego. I know it still hurts right there. We appreciate you riding with us. Until next time, keep it real. Keep it Dodger Blue.